Hello everybody, this is the Empirical Audiophile. I want to tell you about something that happened to me, and this all started about 4 days ago. Now I'm going to tell you right off the bat, I'm not one of those audiophiles, because I've been doing this for like 50 years, that believe in all this snake oil bullshit. And I'm just telling you the way it is. I don't believe in it, never have, never will be convinced. I've been to salons and people at the salon saying, well, can't you hear that? No, I don't hear it. But anyway, I don't fall for that, or I try not to fall for any of that snake oil. I also try to stay away from the placebo effect. We all succumb to that, but I try very hard not to succumb to the placebo effect. Just because something costs, $40,000 or $90,000 or $35,000 for speakers or what. No, I don't think that just because it costs more, it's going to sound far, far better than what you think. I'm not that kind of person. If it's going to cost that much money, it better do what it's supposed to do, and a lot better than what I have. A lot. Not just 1 or 2%, and you're paying out that kind of money. No, I'm not that kind of person. I don't fall for that bullshit. Sorry about it, but that's just the way it is. I don't fall for that. Just because it's expensive doesn't mean it's good. It's just expensive. But something happened to me 4 days ago. I decided to buy some new power cables for the CD transport, the Macintosh CD transport, and decided to buy a new power cable for the DAC, D-to-A converter, for the Macintosh. They're both able to have their cables replaced, and they look like they're pretty decent power cables. This is one of them. They both look the same. They're low-powered Macintosh cables. This one says it's a 10 amp, 125 volt power cable. They're both the same. Black, your typical Macintosh power cable. I decided to to get a 10 gauge power cable. I wanted to have a covering over it, so you have a sleeve over it like you do a 75 ohm to prevent EMI and EMF interference. Also, I wanted a ferrite clamp on it to help with RF. Because anytime you have a cable, it's going to act like an antenna. Anytime you have a cable like this, it's going to become an antenna, unless it has some shielding of some sort. And the cables I ordered have shielding to prevent EMI and EMF, and of course it has the ferrite for your RF. So they weren't expensive. This is Amazon. I think for the two of them I paid $80 or something. They're like $40 a piece for a 1 meter pair. So not a lot of money invested. If it doesn't do anything, I don't have a lot of money invested. But they look better than the standard power cables. So what the heck? I thought, well, I'll do it, because I have replaced the power cable to the Simply 845 Unison Research integrated amp here. I replaced the power cable to that, to a 10 gauge. So when I got the cables in, I plugged them in. I have what is called a power wedge with a power wedge enhancer. And the enhancer, I believe, it has a meter on it, an analog meter, tell you what voltage you're getting. But I believe it's nothing but an EMI filter, which you can buy off of Amazon, EMI filters. You plug it into the same socket that the power wedge is plugged into, and it helps clean up the EMI, that noise that you get. So it, for both pieces, when I bought them, probably cost, let's say $800 or so, maybe $900, $800, $900 for both pieces. The power wedge has a transformer in it, so it's a heavy piece, anywhere between 7 to 10 pounds it weighs. And it's all made out of metal. And of course it screwed it together, but 2 of the screws were replaced with rivets, so you can't look at what's inside of the power wedge. But I do know it has a transformer in there. It has sockets. The first 2 sockets are for low voltage, low power equipment, and it's filtered heavily. So that's what you plug into your phono amp. You're going to plug your D to A converter into that. You're going to plug in your preamp. Anything that's low powered, your transport, CD transport, your turntable, you'll plug into those first 2 sets. So you have 4 sockets, and they have fuses on them, 1.5 amp fuses. So you know they're very low powered, those 2. The next 4 are for your power for your amplification. So if you have mono blocks, you would plug them into the next 4. That has less restrictions and everything on it for your power amps. So anyhow, I got the cable in, changed them out, very easy to change out, no problem. They look good, they look sharp. They look like they're very well made. They come from China. This is the exact box it came in, you know, and it says right there, made in China. It's supposed to be oxygen-free copper. Plug them in, turn on the set, and no music. I wonder, well, what's going on here? Cables are bad, what's going on? Then I look at the little red light onto the Macintosh CD transport. It's not on. So I know I'm not getting power. So the first thing I figured, well, let me check out the power wedge, see what's going on. So blew a fuse, the 1.5 amp fuse. Well, I look around for a new fuse to replace it with, and I didn't find any. So I got to order fuses. All right, no biggie. You blew a fuse some way, somehow. It blew a fuse. I don't know, did the power cord do it? I don't know. So I pulled the power wedge out, ordered some fuses from Amazon. No, I did not order AUDIOPHILE fuses. These are just ordinary 1.5 amp fuses, and I got to wait for them to come in. Pulled the power wedge out. Very heavy duty cable. Everything's heavy duty with it. I'll clean it up and use it later when I get the new fuses. But during the interim, I'll put in a trip light here, what they call an isobar, trip light isobar. You can buy these off of Amazon too. I think this is a 2, 4, 6, 8. It's an 8-plug one. I think on Amazon you can buy it for $90. Very well made, all metal. It has, as you keep going down, filter banks. You got filter bank 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I've used this before. And when I had my LTEX, I had my clips, my LTEX, I've used this, compared it to the power wedge. I did not notice any difference, whether you use the isobar or whether you use the expensive power wedge. Was there any sonic difference? No. Did I feel there were any benefits? No. It's just that one cost more than this, and I just felt for the price, this is a better bargain because it does filter as you go down. So you would put your amps in your first one and your more delicate equipment in the last ones. That's all, because it filters more and more. They guarantee your products, if they go bad, up to 25,000 or whatever. It's a surge suppressor. It's a voltage surge suppressor with, of course, filtering to filter out your equipment for noise. How good of a job it does, I don't know. But, so if I compare this to the power wedge, I noticed no difference. So I put it back in, hooked everything back up correctly. Everything worked fine. The power cords work fine. Did I notice any difference with the power cords? Did they make any difference? No. But there was something I did notice when I plugged this in, using the Mercuria speakers. Now I'm listening to this and I'm thinking to myself, and I noticed it sounded different. Now remember, before when I used it and compared it to the Power Wedge, there was no difference. But now with the Macarius speakers and their extremely expensive crossover that they use, and I would consider the Macarius speakers to be a high-end speaker, okay? I'm just going to tell you that. It doesn't have that high-end price. It doesn't have that $28,000, $40,000, $98,000 price. But I would consider it to be a high-end speaker. And I'll get into that in just a few minutes. Anyhow, I noticed a difference. And I'm listening to it, and it sounded almost like a Klipsch or an LTEC system, like I'm using the LTEC speakers or Klipsch speakers. That's what it sounded like. And I thought, where's the bass? Now, the bass is there, but it almost sounded like that the bass was maybe like 40 hertz. I'm hearing bass. You know, it's like, where's the bass? So I put in the SVS subwoofer, and I turn it up so I get a lot of that subwoofer. But still, where's the bass? Because subwoofers usually don't really kick in until 90 hertz, because that's omnidirectional. Anything under 100 hertz is going to be omnidirectional. That's where a lot of your subwoofers kick in, is at 100 or 90 hertz on down. And the SVS one goes to 23 hertz. So I turned that on, I turned it up, and I thought, where's the bass? Where's that warmth? Where's the body to the music? Where's the, you know, the singers? They sound more sterile. That's the only word I can use, adjective I can think of. Where is the timbre? Where is the, you know, the piano and the human voice sounded different. I thought, what's going on here? Is it the power chords? Is it the isobar that I'm using, the triplet isobar? What's going on here? Well, as I'm playing music, one thing that I like, that I notice, is this Copeland and Fanfare for the Common Man. Now, I have this on two different CDs. One is, this is a reference recording, which is HD CD, and I have it on Telart. And I like it. I listen to it a lot. I like classical music, and Fanfare for the Common Man. And if you hear it, they have the bass drums, the tenor drums, the timpani drums, but they use like the bass drums, and it really pounds out on both CDs, whether you use the Telart or whether you use the one from reference recording. This one was done by Professor Johnson. This was. I prefer this one, maybe because it's HD CD. I just prefer the sound quality compared to the Telart, and it's got something in it that it's got a little bit of a micro dynamics in it. So when you play this compared to the Telart one, and the drums are pounding and everything, you will get very slight tinging noise. And I even have it in my notes when I was reviewing these, and that is from a triangle. It's very soft. It's part of the music. And when I was listening to this with the isobar, I didn't hear it. Now, I'm not going to tell you where it's at, where the triangle comes in, but it's very soft. And if your system can't play it, I'll tell you, I've taken this to shows, whether Expona, Florida. I played this off of $50,000 systems, and they could not play that triangle. So if you cannot hear the triangle, don't worry about it. This was a horn system. I listened to it. The triangle never appeared. Okay. I had to listen to that 4 times, and I'm really listening to it, and I'm trying to think to myself, where is the triangle? Where's that little ting? You know, you got this you got this piece where you got these drums and these horns just going out, blurting out, and then you have this delicate little tingle, ting, triangle, very soft, kind of like, wow. It's part of the music. It's part of what we're audiophiles for, to listen to these little delicate micro details that are in the music. Some people don't care about micro detail. I do. As an audiophile, I like those little micro details. Anyhow, I couldn't hear it. After about the fourth time, I know it's there, so I'm really listening hard. And I could barely hear it. I'm wondering, wow, and I know it's there. And I can imagine somebody who doesn't know it's there is never going to know it's there, that triangle. So I thought, wow, I'm missing the bass. I remember when Armando came over from Mako, he came over, and when he sat and I played him a piece of music, I played him a piece of music from this CD here called Bug Music, and he said, you could hear the bass. You can feel it going through your legs and everything, going through the ground. You can feel that bass. And I noticed with the trip light and the new power cables, it wasn't there. Even when I was turning up the subwoofer. Where in the hell is the bass? Where's that feeling? Where's that warmth? Where's that body? Where's that, none of it was there. So anyhow, about 9 o'clock last night, I get a package with the fuses. That's all great. So I clean up the power wedge, put new fuses in it, and I exchanged everything back and put all the cables back into the power wedge like they're supposed to, and I took out the trip light. I fired up the system again. Wow, what a difference. What a difference. Now remember, there was no difference between the power wedge and the trip lights when I did the clip speakers or the voice of the theaters. And those are horn speakers. There was no difference. You couldn't tell the difference between the two. It was like night and day. I mean, anyone can hear the difference. All of a sudden, the bass came back. You could feel it going through your legs. I had to turn down the subwoofer. Wow, I had to turn that thing down because it was like overpowering. Too much bass. So I put on the Copeland Fanfare for a Common Man, and right off the bat, you could hear ting, the little ting from the triangle. Right off the bat. It's like, then I played Ellison Cross and Union Station right here. Ellison Cross, Union Station. And of course, she has a real good piece in here. It's, what is that? It Doesn't Matter. You probably heard it. Ellison Cross, It Doesn't Matter. And her voice just bloomed. You want to play that 1,000 to 4,000 kilohertz because that's where the human hearing is more acute. Our hearing is between 1,000, 4,000. That's where speech and singing and everything comes from. Right there. That's going to tell you if a system sounds bright. Well, I can tell you, the difference was like night and day. You had the warmth of the voice. It sounded more human. It sounded more realistic. The instruments sounded better using the wedge than using the isobar. I was kind of shocked. So I did another test. I wanted to find out, well, what does it do on another female voice, which I have mentioned. And this one, of course, is Eva Cassidy. And I played the Fields of Gold. And it's like, it was beautiful compared to what it sounded like off of the isobar. And it was beautiful, the warmth, like she's right here singing with you with the Macaria speakers, just beautiful sounding. So I thought, well, I'm going to test it out on male voice. So I got Sting. And I played the same song, Field of Gold. Great. There's a little tapping there as he's singing. Someone's hitting something, making a tapping noise. It was in space, solid, sounded real. You can tell the depth. I mean, it just sounded good. Then on this one, it has Russians. And that was powerful, timbre was there. Everything was there that was missing with the isobar. And I thought, wow, this is a big, huge difference. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is it wasn't the power cables. I didn't notice the power cables did anything fantastic. I'm going to be honest with you. But I did notice the difference between the power wedge and this. And I was thinking to myself, this is the first time I heard a difference between those two pieces. But of course, I was using horn speakers. I wasn't using the Mercurius speakers. And I don't know why. I can't explain why it made such a huge difference. I mean, this isn't a small difference where, oh, it's just a little bit. I mean, the difference is like night and day. Anyone can hear it. It's like night and day, where the Mercurius speakers just bloomed with the power wedge compared to this. And I was thinking to myself, boy, it shows you that even when you get something like a power conditioner, and you know, usually at shows, they don't use power conditioners. A lot of people just use power strips, you know, like this, or a power strip at shows. If you go to shows, you see a power strip there. It's like, where's the expensive $11,000 power conditioner at? Or the $2,000 or $3,000 power conditioner at? Where, you know, a lot of shows, they don't have that. They just have power strips like this. And I thought to myself, wow, it makes a huge difference with the Mercurius speakers. And I thought to myself that how many audiophiles, you put something in because you're watching YouTube videos now and everybody tells you about these, you know, you should have these. Well, of course, for spikes and stuff like that, but how it made a big difference with the sound, you know. And then you start thinking to yourself, yeah, but a good power conditioner does make a big difference with the sound compared to an inexpensive one. This is like a $90 power conditioner, which is not inexpensive in itself, but the power wedge is. And it made a huge difference as far as sound staging, the sound, the bass drum, the impact, the bass that I was missing, where you can feel it going in your legs and stuff. You can feel that bass, yet it's not overpowering bass. It's not muddy. It's a nice, clean, non-muddy, tight bass in space, okay? The isobar did it. Now, no mistake, it did it, but it was missing that whole bottom end, almost like, wow, it's cutting off at 40 hertz. It's not going all the way down to 25 hertz. There's a lot of information you realize down there that something like this can make a huge difference on your system. And I would have never believed it. That's why I'm doing this video. I would have never believed it, that a power conditioner could have made that much of a difference with these Mercurius speakers. And I have realized every time I've made a change with these speakers, you hear it. And I can only imagine that if you were hear the system and say, wow, that sounds good, and you run out and buy the speakers, let's say, and you're not getting the same quality, I can only imagine what the audiophile is thinking, that, well, this is garbage. And they've always told me, ever since I started in this hobby, just like you, put all your money into your speakers. Find out what speakers are the best speakers for you and put your money into the speakers. Then you can buy the equipment before it, because you can always upgrade that equipment to get better equipment, which you probably maybe will. I have. I didn't upgrade my speakers, but I damn upgrade cabling, amps. I've went through receivers to amps to different kind of amp. Never changed my speakers. And that's why they give you that advice. Buy the best speakers. So this is something I did want to bring out, that the Mercurius speakers, what they brought out, even when, like I said, Armando came over, He had noticed that difference, even with a tube amplifier, about how good the bass was and the presentation of the music. You could notice it right away like that. There is no guessing. There is no, does that maybe sound better? Maybe the soundstage sounds a little. You see that. You see it on YouTube. Man, you know, the improvement is very minute. It's a minutia. You know, it's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to spend another, you know, $2,000 on a power conditioner cable to get maybe it's going to sound a little bit better, and then you buy it. And you already have this placebo effect. You already are telling yourself, I just bought new cable. I just bought a new power conditioner. I have to hear something. I have to. You know, it's a placebo effect. We all do it. I do not subject myself to placebo effects, but we all do it. That placebo effect, that you want to hear something so bad. And especially when it comes to speakers. Speakers are terrible because of the way people present them. I mean, you go out and get a pair of like TAD speakers that cost, you know, $38,000. They don't sound better than the Mercurius speakers. I can tell you right now. But see, you're convinced that these start at $8,000. That's a lot of money, but they're not $38,000 or they're not $98,000. And because that price has already convinced us that they have to sound better. Oh, they got to sound better because of the price. And I compared like the Mercurius speakers to Horn speakers that cost $40,000, almost $100,000, and they didn't sound better. Because I'm not one of those people that just because you slap a price tag on something doesn't make it better. It just makes it more expensive, because you got a two-way speaker costing you $40,000. Are you kidding me? The speakers don't cost $20,000 a piece to make. That's almost as much as an automobile. You have to be kidding me. It doesn't cost that much, but they throw these price tags on because it already convinces you as the hobbyist that it's gotta sound good. At that price tag, it's gotta sound good. And one speaker that just comes to mind is the TAD speakers. Oh, it's gotta sound good. That little bitty 7-inch woofer that's just going back and forth, looks like it's gonna, you know, blow out of the speaker, and it's being pushed to the max. Oh, it sounds so good, and the mid-range sounds so good for $38,000 or $98,000. When I understand now why Deckware uses these Lee Audio or Lee Sung speakers to voice his amps. I understand why. Because if things line up in a row, if the synergy is there, you come up with some unbelievable sound. Unbelievable. Matching that of speakers that cost 5 and 10 times more. But you're not paying that, because you're not paying for all the cabinetry. You're not paying for the cheap wire that they're putting in. You're not paying for this big crossover that's in there that's all cheap parts. You're not paying for that. You're paying for high quality, unbelievable parts in a crossover with high quality wiring to a baffle speaker, a dipole speaker, where you're getting everything. So I thought I would bring that up to you, that I didn't think ever that just adding something like this and changing it out would make a huge difference. I mean, it makes a huge difference. And if you listen to it with this and don't know any better, you would say, oh, the system sounds good, because you don't know any better. I think there's an old saying, isn't there? It's, let's see, it's better to not have and not know what you've got than to lose it and then know what you lost. I think there's an old saying like that. Well, that's what this is. If you listen to it and haven't heard it off of a better isolation AC unit, you would never know what you were missing in the bass and everything else. That warmth, that body, that human voice that comes magically out. That's like, wow. And I mean, I was listening late last night. It was like everything was back. But I do have to admit, power chords, you know, are they, the power chords I bought, are they so superior than this? No, I can't really admit I heard a sonic difference. But, you know, they weren't that expensive. So I thought I'd do a video. You tell me if you have listened, maybe you can stream it. See if you can stream the CD, or if you have the CD. Fanfare for the Common Man. You'll hear the triangle. It's extremely soft. It's part of the music. A lot of people say, well, I don't care if I don't hear every little minutia thing in there. I don't care. Well, you're not then listening to the music. It's part of the music. It's neat. It's part of what is in that music when you're listening to it. As an audiophile, I would think that's what I want to hear. I want to hear those little details. I want to hear when someone, you know, clicks a stick together, or hits a xylophone, or hits a, you know, a tenor drum or snare drum lightly, or they play a violin and it sounds like it's 30, 40 feet back. I want to hear that. I want to hear that little triangle. I want to hear those sounds like Michael Jackson going, oh. I want to hear when Michael Jackson uses a washboard over a synthesizer. I want to hear those differences. That's why I'm an audiophile. That's what I think most people want. I don't want to sweep it under the rug and say, I don't care if I hear it. So, I don't know. Tell me if you hear, if you have that, tell me if you can hear the triangle in that piece. It's very hard to hear, but with the Mercurio speakers, boom, like that. It's like, there it is. I even have it in my notes. I have it in my notes. Every time I sit down and listen to it, I can hear that triangle. With the isobar, I was struggling like a duck through the desert to hear that triangle with the isobar. Why? So until next time, this is the Empirical Audiophile. Happy listening, and thank you for watching my channel.